In this video, I'm going to be breaking down this 10-second test shot for a short film that I'm working on. So let's get started. So this 10-second piece is a test shot for a short film that I'm working on. And I want to go through it and show you all the different pieces that I have here to make this happen. Alright, so first things first, the whole idea is the subject is just standing there, and the orb, the sci-fi orb, basically comes down into the alley. So the camera kind of backs up and another one comes behind it. So it's just a quick little test shot to see what we can do. So let me show you the actual shot. That's already been pre-composed with the CGI effect. So if we come over here to color and we turn that off, that's the original shot. And I had to color correct it, first of all, just to get the look right. So let's talk about that. You'll notice two things here. As it plays, it's extremely shaky, okay? And, of course, there's no color correction. So we'll turn color correction back on, and off, and on. Another thing to note is that this light from this orb is actually hitting the physical environment. Now, that was actually a pretty tricky shot. So the CGI animator, this guy, he actually had to go in and mask out certain pieces of this shot, including himself, and layer them together in order to make it look like the orb was actually in that environment and that the light from the orb was actually touching the environment. Now that's a very tricky process and there's a lot going on there. I'm not going to show that today, but perhaps in a later video I can show how that process is actually done. But for right now, I'm just going to show you what I was able to do with that shot. Alright, so we're going to jump right back into the actual shot here. So now that you kind of know what's going on, let's go ahead and take a look at audio. So audio is a big thing because, of course, it's just a static shot. I mean, there's nothing going on. So I had to go in and I had to actually add the sound. I had to create the environment, had to create the experience visually and with audio. So the first thing is I definitely wanted to have some kind of a cool crackling kind of sound, you know, something that almost makes it feel alive, but it's kind of high tech, you know, futuristic, sci-fi. So inside of my library, I use this effect. So, you know, it's kind of grungy, adds a lot of texture to the overall shot. Alright, and you'll also notice that under here, I actually have some kind of a sound that gives the orb some kind of extra deep substance. So I'll go ahead and listen to that real quick. Now that just kind of gives it more life, gives it more atmosphere to the actual shot. Alright, so let's go back to the footage. Now remember when I first showed you the unedited version of this, the footage basically was extremely shaky. Now there's a couple things I had to do to it in order to make it nice and smooth, because this was a handheld shot. So one of the things I had to do is I had to go in and I had to nest this whole sequence, which is Alley 2, so this whole shot. So I went in, I nested it, and I was able to apply a warp stabilizer effect on it to give it smooth motion. The idea of the smooth motion is to really draw in the viewer for this one, because with all that extra shake, it kind of takes away from the overall shot. You're more focused on, wow, I'm kind of bouncing around everywhere, instead of focusing on what we want you to focus on, which is the orb coming down. We want you to see it moving, we want you to hear it, we want you to feel it. We want you to see the lights hitting the ground. So it looks very well blended together. So speaking of blending, let's go in and take a look at this layer that I have over everything. So it's a dust layer. And there it is, off, and on, and off. So if we go in and we take a look at this dust layer, let's take a look here. There's actually quite a bit going on. So if we go back to the beginning of our clip, you can actually see the dust particles. Now the original dust particle looks like this. Just like that. So it's a 4K special effect video, and basically you're able to do different blending modes with it and different effects to achieve different looks. But for this specific look, I'm trying to give the shot atmosphere because it's kind of a dead shot. So since it's a 4K shot, I was able to upscale it quite a bit, as you can see over here. Now I have it keyframed and animated so that it moves with the camera movement. With this dust element, I'm able to add subtle texture and atmosphere and depth to the whole shot. Starting with it upscaled pretty close and kind of in focus, and as the camera starts to begin to roll back, you see the dust elements as if it was in real space, real time. The way I was able to achieve that was by keyframing the actual dust element in with the footage. So basically, as the camera moved back and moved up and down, I animated that layer to do the same. That way it looks like the dust is already in the environment. It blends everything in much better. Now with the dust element, there's actually a blur effect that I have on there. You can see there. And as the camera steps back, it actually becomes more blurred. There we go. See that? The whole idea is to add a lot more texture and atmosphere to the shot. So as the camera moves back, it almost looks like it went from a really cool detailed shot up close to the subject, where it's kind of in focus, to where back here, it's almost like a very subtle hint of texture to the atmosphere. Another thing I had to do to it was color. And you can see right there, it's not much of a difference, but it's just enough to help it blend into the environment and help all the other pieces blend together as one. Another cool effect that I was able to apply on here is this subtle lens flare. The idea of this is just another layer to help blend all these shots together. So as you can see here, we'll go ahead and click on it. Blend mode. That's what it looks like originally. So by blending that in, we're able to add a lot more texture and subtlety to the overall shot. And here it is without the lens flare when the orb's light kind of flashes around. Alright, so I mean, right there, I mean, it just feels a lot more dead to me. There's not a lot going on. It just feels, empty. So adding in that lens flare for me, it just takes a dead shot where you have a couple seconds where there's not a lot going on, and it really helps to blend the whole thing together. So that's the point of these layers, with the lens flare and that dust layer element. That really helps take this shot from an okay shot to something that's really interesting to look at. There's a lot of texture, a lot of depth, and it helps to blend the overall shot together. Now this last piece was a little bit more of a challenge. So as you can see here, we got this really cool element that pops out almost like it had too much pressure. See? Pop, pink, pop. Alright, so how did I do that? First of all, let's take a look at the overall shot here. You can see that the red glow illuminates the steam that's coming off of this a little bit. So that there helps blend it in as well. But let's take a look at the actual effect. So it's basically a couple of the same smoke charges, but with different layers and different masks. So to start, the adjustment layer on top helps to blend everything in together with the original shot. You can already see the huge difference it makes. Look how bright it is. It doesn't blend in with the shot at all. It looks completely fake, and it's icky. So, we'll jump back in here and we'll turn that on. And we'll just go ahead and close that layer out for a second. Now, some of the other layers that I have in here are layered to kind of give it the specific feel that I'm going for. So I got 3 layers of the same thing. This bottom layer is blurred to give a sense of depth to the whole thing, and that way there's no sharp edges. So then we jump up to the middle one. This one is really blurred, and it's colored red, and the idea is to make it look like that there's substance inside the mist. And the whole idea of this mask is to really shape the inside of this steam. So having it blurred And having it a specific color really adds to adding that depth to it. Turn that layer off, and the top layer. Now the top layer is basically the same thing. It's blurred but with a different shape. So I'm going to turn all those off, and we'll start from the bottom to kind of give you an idea as to what we're actually looking at here. So I'll turn this bottom one on. So that's our bottom layer. That's our middle layer. You can kind of see a little bit of red in there, just a slight subtle touch of it. And then our top layer. So all those together make this final shot. Now in this final shot, in this nested sequence, I actually have a mask over it, and the opacity is turned down. So all those pieces together, all that, make this last little piece here. And it's so subtle, so fast, I mean, it looks like it belongs. Now this effect took a while to get, but I think the end result looks really nice. Alright, there's our breakdown video for this 10-second piece. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I'll see you guys next time.